Hello everyone. Let's review shlokas 61 through 64 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Pañchapretāsanāsīnā pañchabrahma svarūpiṇī chinmayī paramānandā viģyāna ghanarūpiṇī dhyānadhyātṛ dhyeyarūpā dharmādharma vivarjitā viśvarūpā jāgariṇī swapantī taijasātmikā suptā prāGYātmikā turyā sarvāvasthā vivarjitā sṛśhṭikartrī brahmarūpā goptrī govindarūpiṇī saṃhāriṇī rudrarūpā tirodhānakarīśvarī sadāśivānugrahadā pañchakṛtya parāyaṇā. Before we take a look at the meanings of the namas, just a quick reminder that we are looking at Devi's omnipresence, her ability to be in anything and everything, her ability to be anywhere and everywhere. So let's take a look at the first nama here, pañchapretāsanāsīnā. Pañchapretāsanāsīnā. Pancha means 5, preta means corpse, dead body. Asanam means seat, asīna means seated. So she is seated on the 5 corpse throne. What does that mean? So it is considered that Lalitambika is sitting on a throne and the 4 legs of that throne are Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and Ishana. And then the seat of the throne is Sadashiva. So these are the 5 Brahmas and they are all, each one is responsible for one function that the Brahman is supposed to do. So as we all know that ultimate reality is the creator of the universe, is the protector of the universe, destroys any evil and is responsible for the Maya and concealing as well as revealing, and is responsible for blessing everybody. So these are the 5 functions and each Brahma is responsible for that. Each one is a representation of that. So it is said that each of these gods can do their function, their job, only when they are united with their Shaktis. So Brahma can function only when he is with Bharati. Vishnu can function only when he is joined with Kamala. Rudra can function only when he is with Gauri. So each of these Shaktis are very important for these gods to do their functions. And who is Lalita? She is sarvashaktimayī, which means she is all these Shaktis. Therefore, without her, all these gods are like corpses. They can't do anything. And this is why in Saundarya Lahari, Adi Shankaracharya says, Shiva Shaktya yukto yadi bhavati shakta prabhavitam. Nache devam devo nakalu kushala spanditum api. So he says, Shiva, only when he is joined with Shakti. Shaktya yukto yadi bhavati. Yadi means if. If he is joined with Shakti, then shakta prabhavitam. He is able to make anything happen. Prabhavitam means to make happen. He is able to make something happen. Nache devam. If not so, devo nakalu kushala spanditum api. So if that is not the case, then he cannot even move. Kushala means capable. Spanditum means vibration. In Tamil it's called as asaivu. Api means also. He cannot even move. So she is the Shakti of Shiva. And therefore without her they are considered as a corpse, and that's why she is said to be seated on the 5 corpse throne. Pañchabrahma svarūpiṇī. She is the form of the 5 Brahmas. So what this means is the 5 Brahmas are nothing but the manifestation of Lalita. Chinmayī. Chinmayī means consciousness. She is the ultimate consciousness. Paramānandā. Paramānanda means supreme bliss. She is the supreme bliss. viGYāna ghanarūpiṇī. viGYānam means wisdom. You can think of it as knowledge, you can think of it as understanding. This is why we also call it as science, right? viGYānam is also science. So knowledge, consciousness, understanding, all of that. ghanarūpiṇī. Gana means complete. She is the complete knowledge. She is the permanent wisdom. dhyānadhyātṛ dhyeyarūpā. So dhyāna, dhyātṛ, dhyeya. Here it represents the triad of the reality. So dhyanam is meditation, dhyātṛ is the meditator, and dhyeya is the one that is being meditated upon. So she is the form of meditation, meditator, and the object of meditation. Dharmādharma vivarjitā. Dharma, adharma vivarjitā. So dharma is the rules that makes the that ensures harmony in the universe between people, etc. So that is called as virtue. So if you follow in the dharma way, you are virtuous. Adharmam is vice. Vivarjitā means devoid of. So she is devoid of virtue and vice. That doesn't apply to her. viśvarūpā. Vishvam means the world. She is the form of the universe. viśvarūpā jāgariṇī. So human beings have three states that we generally operate in. One state is called as awake, where we are awake, we are interacting with the material world. We see things around us. So this is the awake state during the day. Then we also have two states in sleeping. One where we are in the dreaming state, where we have not fully slept. So there is a dreaming state. And then where the mind is still active. In the awake state, body and mind both are active and they are interacting with the world. In the sleep state, in the first dreaming state, the body is at rest, but the mind is still active. That's why we are dreaming. And then there is the deep sleep state where both the body and the mind both are at rest. So that is the deep sleep state. So as human beings, normal human beings, we all experience all these three states. But yogins have the ability to go into the next state, which is called as turyā. And in the turyā state, they are able to recognize their oneness with that ultimate reality in a way where they can consciously enter it. And we'll see a little bit more about it. So, jāgariṇī, the Jagrat state, is the waking state. In the waking state, she is viśvarūpā. She is the things that we see in this material world. So she is the form of the universe when we are awake. Svapantī taijasātmikā. Swapna means dream, dreaming. So swapantī is the dreaming state. In the dream state, what is she? She is taijasātmikā. Taijasa means illumine. So she is the one, everything that our mind illumines. So if you think about the dreaming state, we still can see things, right? And some of us can even remember when we wake up in the morning, we'll know what dream that we had. So all those are the projections of the mind. And many of those could be what we came across. And so it comes from what is stored in our mind, what we interacted with. Some of them we may not realize why it came. It could have come from subconscious. But in the dreaming state, she is everything that our mind illumines. So all the subtle objects that we are seeing. So in the dream state, we are not directly interacting with that, whatever we are seeing, but we are experiencing it as a projection of our mind. She is those subtle objects that we are seeing in our dream state. Suptā, prāGYātmikā. So suptā is the deep sleep state, and it's also called as sushupti. And in there, she is the prāGYātmikā. Prajna is the consciousness. It is the supreme consciousness. And that's the same as that chinmayī, the consciousness. She is the essence of consciousness. So every night when people sleep, in the deep sleep state, we merge with that ultimate reality. But the unfortunate thing is, because we are all under the effect of Maya, we do not recognize that we are merging with that ultimate reality. And therefore, when we wake up in the morning, we come back to our Jagrat state and interact with this material world, believing to be whoever we are and believing all the experiences to be whatever they are and creating perceptions and from there having desires, etc. But every night during the deep sleep state, every soul merges with the ultimate consciousness. So she is the pure consciousness that we experience in the deep sleep state. Turyā, sarvāvasthā, vivarjitā. And there is a fourth state which only yogins can reach, and that's called as turyā. And in there, she is transcending all the three states. So in the turyā, someone is able to get into that deep sleep state willingly, consciously. Most of us won't know when we fell asleep, right? So that is not something that's under our control. Whereas in turyā, the yogins are able to get into that state. It is also said that there is a fifth state called turyātīta, where even in turyā, somebody can be in a samadhi but they may not be able to sustain it. And then in the turyā atita, they are able to be in sync with that ultimate consciousness, just like somebody can be in the Jagrat state. So that's called as turyātita. But beyond that, she transcends all the states. Sarvāvasthā vivarjitā. Avastha means state. Sarva means all. Vivarjitā, she is devoid of all the states, because she is this ultimate consciousness, and she doesn't have to go through the Jagrat, svapantī and suptā states. It is for human beings, but this is how we experience her when we are in all of those states. sṛśhṭikartrī brahmarūpā. Sṛśhṭi means creation. Sṛśhṭikartrī means one who creates. So when she is creating in the form of Brahma, brahmarūpā. So when she is undertaking the function called creation, then we see her as Brahma, or she is undertaking the function of creation in the form of Brahma. So everything from Brahma on to whatever is there in the universe, it's all her. So in the form of Brahma, she is undertaking creation. This is the first function of Brahman. Goptrī, govindarūpiṇī. So goptrī means protector or guardian. So she is guarding the universe. She is protecting the universe in the form of Govinda. Govinda is Vishnu. Saṃhāriṇī rudrarūpā. Samharam means destruction, destroying. So she destroys evil in the form of Rudra. Rudra is another name for Shiva. Tirodhānakarīśvarī. Tirodhanam means to conceal. So this is the effect of Maya. So the keeping the Maya going is also one of the functions of Brahman, because that Maya is essential for life to go on, for creation to happen. If everybody is always purely in the consciousness and everybody realizes that they are one and the same as ultimate reality, then creation cannot move on. And therefore, Maya is a required thing for a universe to be sustained. And therefore, she conceals and reveals. She decides when somebody should stay under Maya, when she will reveal that, so she'll lift that curtain of Maya and then still reveal that they're one and the same, is something that she decides. And she decides all that as Ishwari, who is the wife of Ishyāna. sadāśivānugrahadā. Anugraham means blessing. So she blesses everybody, gives her grace in the form of Sadāśiva. Pañchakṛtya parāyaṇā. Pañchakṛtya means the 5 functions. Kritya is a function. So she does these 5 functions in this particular way. She is performing these 5 functions. So as we can see with these 4 shlokas, as well as the previous one, the essence of all of this, all these shlokas, is to say that Brahman, which is the absolute, fills all the space, is complete in itself. There is no second for that Brahman. It's continuously present in everything, be it the creator like Brahma, or down to the lowest of matter, chara, achara, jagannatha. Even if it's an inanimate object, it is present in that. So it is everywhere, it's being in everywhere, and that is also in each and every individual. So that ultimate reality is present in all of us. If you see, this is the essential teaching of Upanishads. And Adi Shankaracharya actually read through all the Vedas, and he brought 4 lines as Mahavakyas. And this is what the Upanishads are trying to tell us. The 4 Mahavakyas are Prajñānam Brahma. That means consciousness is Brahman. And this is something in Atreya Upanishad, and it's called as Lakshana Vakya, the defining sentence, which says what is Brahman. Brahman is nothing but consciousness, the chinmayī. And then the second Vakyam is Aham Brahmasmi. That means I am Brahman. This is coming in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's called as Anubhava Vakya. So something a person can experience. This is part of the Yajurveda. Prajñānam Brahma is part of Rig Veda. And then the third Mahavakya is called as Tat Tvamasi. You are that, or that you are. And it is the Chandogya Upanishad, and it is called as a Upadesha Vakya. It is a guru teaching it to his disciple, and it comes in Samaveda. And then I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. This comes in Mandukya Upanishad, and it's called as Anusandhana Vakya. which is a investigation sentence, something that allows you to explore, that keeps us connected to the large reality, and this is part of Atharva Veda. So Adi Shankaracharya read through all the Vedas and he pointed to these 4 lines as the essence. And in fact, if you see, the Shankara Matams are all associated with one of these Vakyas. So that is the whole idea behind all these shlokas as well, to show that that ultimate reality is everywhere and it is also in each and every individual. And if the individual recognizes the presence of ultimate reality in themselves, then they are supposed to be called as enlightened. So let's take a look at a small story related to one of the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, which is that you are, and it is the essence of it, the dhyānadhyātṛ dhyeyarūpā. The dhyānadhyātṛ dhyeyarūpā references the triad of reality. There is a subject, there is an object, and there is an intelligence through which the subject perceives the object. And that subject-object differentiation continues to exist until we consider ourselves as separate from the world. The moment we recognize the oneness with the ultimate reality, that dissolves into the bindu, and that time the person is enlightened. And the Tattvamasi is actually trying to help us understand that there is only one self, and that self is in everything. So let's look at a small story related to Tattvamasi, how it came about. So this Tattvamasi is attributed to a sage called Uddalaka Aruni. So the Aruni, sage Aruni, is a disciple of sage Ayodhya, and he is extremely devoted to his teacher. It is even said that one day there was a class going on. Sage Ayodhya was taking the class, and somebody came running and said, Sage, in your field, the embankment has broken, so the water is all rushing. You have to go safeguard your field now, otherwise your field will be lost. It will be completely flooded and all the crops will die. So the sage looked at Aruni and said, Aruni, can you please go take care of it? So Aruni went to the field and he saw that the water was rushing like crazy. He didn't know what to do. So the embankment, in Tamil it's called as Anai. In all the fields, if you see, there will be a vaikal. So they would have made paths for the water to flow, and from some water source the water will be coming. But if that breaks, then it will just come into the field and then it will spoil the crops. If they all get overwatered, they could get spoiled. So that embankment had broken and the water was rushing in. So he didn't know what to do. He looked around. There was nothing to stop that water with. And so then he was struggling hard, and time passed by, and next day morning the sage is again taking the class and he sees Aruni is absent. And he asks everybody, where is Aruni? Everybody says, after you sent him to the field yesterday, none of us saw him. And so now sage Ayodhya is concerned, and he's rushing to the field, and there they find that because Aruni could not find anything to stop the water from flowing into his master's field and into his guru's field, he made himself the one that will stop the water. So he became the embankment, and therefore he stopped the water from going, and he was lying there like that in the cold weather all night, only because his teacher said you have to take care of it, and this is the best way he could find. And that's why he is called as Uddalaka Aruni, because he himself became a Uddala. Uddala is something that stops, or something that splits or that removes, and he stopped the water from flowing, therefore he is called as Uddalaka Aruni. So such is the type, Uddalaka Aruni. And Uddalaka Aruni had a son called Shvetaketu, and the son was about 12 years old. And you all know in those days they will have the brahmacharya. So after a certain point the son will have to go and study and learn everything and come prepared for leading a life, and that's when they will get married. So there is a brahmacharya phase that all boys go through. So it was time for Aruni to also, Shvetaketu to also go through brahmacharya. So sage Aruni called him and said, you should go study. And he thought it will be better that he studies with some other sage. So he sends him off to study. And Shvetaketu is also learning everything. And after about 12 years, he is returning. Now he is a young man, and you can see that he is very proud of what he has learned. And sage Aruni can tell that Shvetaketu thinks he knows everything, and the arrogance is showing in all his interaction. And if you see, the whole idea of education is to teach humility. Vidya Vinaya Sampannam. So as we learn more, we are supposed to become more and more humble. But unfortunately, in reality, what happens is, as we learn more and more, we all get what's called as Vidya Garvam, that I know more, and that nobody else knows better than me. And actually, out of all the different Garvams, the Vidya Garvam is the hardest to lose. It is very difficult. If someone is very proud of their looks, then as they age, the looks will be gone. But knowledge is something, once you gain, it stays with you. So it is something that's very hard to lose. So Sage Aruni was a bit worried that his son seems to be so proud of what he has learnt, and so he wanted to cure him of that. So he called his son and he asked him, okay, looks like you've learnt a lot of things. So he asked, now that you know all that is to be known, you must know that by which one hears what cannot be heard, by which one perceives what cannot be perceived, and by which one knows what cannot be known. Did your guru teach you that? And now Shvetaketu is completely baffled. How can you know something that's not known? How can you hear something that cannot be heard? So he's like very confused, and immediately he realizes everything that he learned is not all there is to learn. So there is clearly something more which his father is able to point to. So immediately he becomes humble and he tells his father, Father, my teachers did not teach me anything like that, but it looks like there is something that you know. Can you please tell me what it is that which cannot be known, but you can know that, how do you hear something that cannot be heard? Please explain a little further. So now he's coming to a point where he's willing to listen. And then Uddalaka Aruni tells him, if you know clay, if you know the essence of clay, if you know the nature of clay, can you not know everything that's made of clay? It can be a pot, it can be a elephant that's made out of it, it can be a plate, but regardless, if it is made of clay, we know that if you put it down, it will break, right? Or if you know the essence of gold, then you can know everything that's made of, you can know the nature of everything that's made of gold. So it can be a earring, it can be a chain, it can be a bangle, but if you wear it and take bath, then the gold will not wash away. Whereas if it's made of clay and you try to put it in water, after a certain point, it's going to dissolve and lose its shape, whereas a gold will not lose its shape. So by knowing clay or by knowing gold, we can understand everything that's made of clay and gold. So he says that is the self. And this example was helpful for Shvetaketu, but he didn't understand. He asked, what do you mean? So then Uddalaka Aruni explains to him that there is a ultimate reality that's called as a being, that's called as Tat, and that is the essence of everything in this world. And he explains how this universe came to be. So in the beginning, there was just this Tat. We call it as being. And everything cannot come out of nothing, so it had to be something. Therefore, we will call it being. So Tat is that being. And that Tat was just there. There was no second, there was no differentiation. And it looked around and it said, Bahusyam prajaye. Bahusyam means let me be many. Prajaye means let me create, let me create an offspring, let me continue to generate, let me propagate. So that's what it was saying. And so as soon as it thought of it, it out of its own will, and this is the cause for the universe. The cause for the universe is the will of that being. Out of its own will, it decided to be many. So it is the independence that the being has, and it's for its own enjoyment that it's doing it. So it said, let me be many, prajaye, let me propagate. So first thing that came out of it was fire. And then when fire came out of it, fire looked around and said, let me be many. And therefore from fire came water. And then water looked around and said, let me be many. And then from water came earth. So that's how we all get food. And if you see, these are all connected. If it's very hot, then you will get rain. If it rains, the food will grow, the crops will grow. So they are all connected. One came out of another. And so that's how all the elements came to be. And then from there, everything that we see in this universe manifested. And what we do is we assign a name and function. This is called as nama rupa. We assign a name and function depending on how we perceive it. But if you see, the essence of everything is just that self. So, he explained the whole thing and he said, this is what is happening here. And so, he said that which is the anima, the subtle essence, the entire world has that at its real nature. That is the truth, that is the Atman, and you are that, O Shvetaketu. So, this is the thing where he says is Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So, he gives many examples. So, after he explains all of that, still Shvetaketu is not able to understand the whole essence, and therefore he gives many examples. And one such example is he asks Shvetaketu to bring a pot full of water. And so he brings a pot full of water, and then he asks him to bring a handful of salt. And then he asks him to drop it inside the pot of water. And then he says, okay, this is enough for today, tomorrow we'll meet. Next day morning they all meet, and then Shvetaketu and his father meet, and Uddalakaruni asks Shvetaketu, now yesterday you dropped the salt inside the water, go get that salt back for me. And Shvetaketu is a bit surprised. He's saying, no, I already put the water, it's all dissolved. So then he looks into it, he says, can you find it? You said the water, the salt went inside the water. Can you find it? But no, the salt is completely dissolved, and so the water is looking as water. You cannot say that it has salt in it. And then sage Aruni asks Shvetaketu to drink from the top of the pot. And then he asks, how is the water tasting? He says it's salty. Then he says, get it from the middle of the pot. How is the water tasting? It is tasting salty. From the bottom of the pot, the water is tasting salty. So then he says, see, you are not able to see the salt in there, but that salt has permeated through the entire water. Wherever you take the water from, it is there. This is what the self is. The self has manifested into all the forms and functions that we see. We may not be able to perceive the self, but that is the nature of everything in this universe. So he explains all of that, and finally Shvetaketu understands that, and he is able to understand that this entire world is nothing but the manifestation of that reality. So there is only one reality, and that reality is what manifested into everything that we see in the universe. So that's the story about Tattvamasi, which is the essence of all these shlokas that we have seen in Lalita Sahasranama. That's all for today. Thank you.